Financial Times aye reports be afa President Akufo Addo I'm seeing say it is trending on social media. In fact, no kwane say nipa kra wo posti ade no Steve Hank ya wo ye MC professor ewa abrochi a MPP for ebebo ni din say oye NDC no Steve Hank ya na obabe posti sa de na ohwe nsem a wo tro ya say okay be my President Akufo Addo say Hanks believe it or not. According to Afrobarometer, 87% of Ghanaians think their country is heading in the wrong direction. I am not surprised. President Akufo Addo has been the master of economic mismanagement. Steve Hank in some way no. You can be a economy no one mismanaging the pan. President Akufo Addo is a master of it. Now obe posti Financial Times. Financial Times one of the biggest online portals for economy in Sensem what you see. And they have a story. Was say how Ghana's economy became a cautionary tale for Africa. How Ghana's economy became a cautionary tale for Africa. You can say obi story about than a cautionary tale. Naturally say a story be a ye di to encrophobi efo. Naturally say obi akwa ya de nipa kona brabo no. Emse wambodi ye nti enu hunti ye de woni obi. Ye de caution obi. Se we hu asumesi ndroboni a wokokonom ye no. Ane na ema na brabo ekosi ni si. Nti wonso a wo ho no, hwe na wankwa nkonom edroboni. Ane ne yetrese nipa kro no. Na brabo aba beda ne cautionary tale. Nti omo se Ghana, ye economy no aba beda ne cautionary tale. Ye ha for Africa no, ye debetu abibi mindful. Se se mu ehu Ghana for. Mu ehu de omo ye ema wo mo economy na ase no. Aha, monso ma wonya sana. I was watching a video from Kenya. Na Kenyan politicians at TV so. Ena omo kasa about Ghana. Ena mi hu say ade na agim asay. O hwa se ne na omo kan omo say Kenya politician asema na o kan no. O say Kenya is heading towards Ghana. Ena o kan Ghana nsem no. What is happening in Ghana se sia senior pensioners ebiso musika esu elgio musika empese ye de be mo kan sansem ni nia wo Kenya TV so na me say hey just say Ghana ene ye de abrabo boni a ye boye ene ye di tu nkrofo di tu omo hofo nti ya abrabo aba be da ne cautionary tale ye de caution nkrofo. That is the story coming from Financial Times. Now let me read the full story. Once nkrofo ya no mo trust story they go in depth. Omoko in-depth pan tro and some ma unso more true story. Now, or see in the center of Accra lies a deserted construction site that is a symbol both of Ghana's ambitions and its afflictions. Say they took it from Meba. Or see the decline of a regional champion rings alarm bells for other countries on the continent that overspent when debt was cheap. Into what here? Or see the decline of a regional champion. Edum brebi na Ghana. Yena na regional champions. Sisi ane yabrabo ringe alarm bells. Ye de yabrabo warning for other African countries. Senya ye bo bosia overspent when debt was cheap. Ye bo bosia no. Aha. Now, this is the story. So it continues or it starts from the National Cathedral angle. I don't know why they started the story from the National Cathedral angle, but that's how they decided to start the story. Or see, in the center of Accra lies a deserted construction site that is a symbol both of Ghana's ambitions and its afflictions. Here is where the National Cathedral of Ghana is set to be built. The passion project of the country's president envisioned as a national landmark and a center of religion to viral Westminster Abbey and Abu Dhabi's Grand Mosque. Sitting on a tree-lined street just off the major thoroughfare of Independence Avenue, the multi-million-dollar development was proposed in 2017, the year Ghana celebrated 60 years free from British rule. Once completed, it will be a 5,000-seat place of worship to accommodate formal events such as presidential inaugurations and state funerals. As about 6 years on, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo Addo's legacy-defining grand vision has stalled. While the economy he presides over is in tatters and Christians struggle under the weight of crashing inflation, the building project is a cautionary tale not only for Ghana but for many countries in Africa that overspent on infrastructure and now face the bill. So they took it from the angle of the National Cathedral. Our Moka say, President Akufo Addo in his idea was obey National Cathedral in Yamanende Akim because you want to yen or many yenisika. A Christopher Nanki is National Cathedral mono economy no air crash omo into Omocran and person support Cathedral Nibium. So that's the angle they took it from. As the public debt is now almost as large as annual economic output. And the better Ghana, your public debt. Oh yeah, for time no. In your epic into your public debt. Hey, you see, make a tremor. I told you guys, say, Emra former President Mahama, Ebema promise or bow or be fix the economy no be say, no make a tremor say, Obi be Mahama, one can say our promises be rebel or man unyai. Once I make us ask them tremor. Yes. And look at this. This is a country. In 2005, you call Hepic, Emma, Hepic no, omo de yeka ni na ache Hepic, ye de yeka ni na ache we started afresh. From year 2000, From year 2000, Osha from year 2000, na ye de ka, e ka no wasro, and I Hepic ye de beche by 2005, and ye start ye magana clean sheets. Ye my clean slate, clean sheets. Say yen shas ye for 20 years on and now the infant say 18 years on, she baby a drew. 18 years on, she baby a drew. Busia bono ye yen dedodo. Because on him say wa bobosia na, and you no betia, a chimba beba betia, to obono, she baby a day ababedru just within 18 years. Is this a country that has a future? Is this a country that has a future? It is out to now my promises. I make a say promises not to swear. And you say be a time. Anyway, as Ghana has long been considered a success story and a model for African development. It is a major producer of gold and cocoa and has one of the region's highest gross domestic products per head. A robust democracy since the early 1990s. It has a relatively well-run government that provides decent levels of public service, including free education. The global African diaspora seeking a connection with the ancestral land regard it as a must-visit destination, and each winter it attracts young people from the UK, Europe, and the US, seeking out its rich culture and pulsating nightlife. The current government, in particular, burnished an image of fiscal responsibility and technocratic noise, something that enabled it to tap commercial debt markets at decent rates of interest. Also, the reputation now lies in ruins. Ghana had just agreed a $3 billion bailout from the IMF when it defaulted on its debt last December, a fate that could soon befall 19 other countries on the continent, according to the fund. Like Ghana, many have borrowed heavily to fund projects, whether railways, roads, ports, or airports that have failed to generate enough income to pay back debts, particularly in an environment of high interest rates and a strong dollar. To further complicate matters, the threat of insecurity is now on Ghana's doorstep due to unrest in Burkina Faso, its neighbor to the north, the new epicenter of the jihadist upheaval in the Sahel, the semi-arid strip south of the Sahara. Also, yet, despite the uncertain outlook, the president remains committed to building a cathedral to serve country's 33 million population, 71% of whom are Christians. The National Cathedral is an act of thanksgiving to the Almighty for his blessings, favor, grace, and mercies on our nation, Akufo Addo said in January after visiting the site and pledging 100,000 Ghana cedis of his own money towards the building. Blah, 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 blah. Many in Ghana are questioning his priorities. About 87% of Ghanaians think their country is heading in the wrong direction, according to data from the Accra-based polling company Afrobarometer. They blame the government and protest have broken out in the past year over the high cost of living. Just as the citizens of Ghana are asking how badly Akufo Addo, whose 2 terms in office end next year, has mismanaged the economy, there are similar accusations around the unfinished cathedral. The building's price tag has surged $400 million, 4 times the original budget. The government says that donors are being wooed to help pick up the tab and allow construction to continue, but it has contributed most of the $58 million that has already been spent. Paul Opoku-Mensah, the project executive director, says the edifice, which is being designed by the prominent Ghanaian British architect Sir David Adjaye, will serve as a national monument, tourist magnet, and economic masterstroke that will eventually pay for itself upon completion. I mean, and we all know it is a lie. Anyway, went further. So, Oshasiye, send America no. Almost one and graph more trauma stories. Na ya detailed. International media no more trust stories. Na ya detailed. So they started from the National Cathedral, and now they came to Ghana's inflation rates, talking about the inflation. Send ya inflation over here from 2019, averagely inflation over 10% and all that, and it rose to 50, and now it's dropping and all that. No. Now, I'll say in Ghana, where politics is so divisive, you need a structure to help build cohesion outside of the political parties, say Opoku-Mensah, and the church becomes such an institution. But instead of being an emblem of unity, for some in Ghana, it has become representative of all that has gone wrong here in the past few years. A mudboard site nicknamed derisively the world's most expensive creator. Now, what's the pain of inflation? Into about inflation, so I say in Accra's sprawling Makola market, shopper Tracy, and you see, hey, Ayana who read the articles from international where Ayana there because utumiunza wa ye jumano okasa ba cathedral ni wiye no wa bagana aba Makola aba bebisa jedini e wa Makola ensem. It was say in Accra's sprawling Makola market, shopper Tracy Aloko has more immediate concerns than national monuments as she looks wistfully at the bag of tomatoes she has just bought. The same quantity cost about 20 cedis in January. She says, now shaking her head, she complains that the same bag costs 50 cedis and this is a good deal. Another vendor just tried to sell her the same amount for 60 cedis. It is like hell, Aloko says, rattling off household items whose prices had skyrocketed in recent months. Not only are tomatoes, the building blocks of Ghanaian soups and stews, more expensive, but so is gari, the granulated cassava flour that is food staple across West Africa. She used to buy food in bulk, she says, but has had to cut back due to the increase in everything. Ama Mary, Obifufro, and Omo interview, no? I say Ama Mary, the market woman who sold the tomatoes to Aloko, says the cost of the produce has partly shot up due to the Islamic crisis in Burkina, from where Ghana imports a sizable amount of its tomatoes annually. Ordinarily, people such as Aloko and Mary are on the front line of Ghana's economic crisis and struggling to adapt to record levels of inflation, although it has dipped from the 2-decade high of 54% in December. Inflation remains at 41.2%. Went on and on, talking about life being hard in Ghana, everyone is feeling the pinch and all that, interviewing policy think tanks, talking about the daily minimum. Charlie, I like this article. They even addressed the daily minimum wage. I said the daily minimum wage was increased by almost 10% to 14.88 cedis at the beginning of the year, but it is only a tiny reprieve in the face of astronomical price rises. So the government says Ghana's economic misfortune has been caused by the dual external shocks of COVID-19, which ground the economy to a halt, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which sent global food and energy prices soaring. There were the malevolent forces, the Akufo Addo said, were hurting his country. And as Addison, governor of the Bank of Ghana, the country's central bank, says the decision of the 3 big rating agencies to downgrade Ghana to junk status made the economic situation more complicated in 2022 as prices climbed steadily. Also, all the external forces were against us, with Russia, Ukraine, the cost of imported food going up, and on the exchange rate, we had no access to foreign capital, Addison says. But analysts say this account only tells half the story. James Jansi, chief Ghana economist, an economist at the International Growth Center and Oxford University and London School of Economics, backed global think tank a back global think that argues Ghana was walking on thin ice but not sinking before the pandemic hit. As the government borrowed heavily to insulate the economy from the effect of the pandemic and may have avoided a recession as a result. But the country's debt as a percentage of GDP went from 62.7% in 2020 to more than 100% last year. According to Finance Minister Akufo Addo, debt servicing now takes up about 70% of government revenue. So they went on and they even brought a chart to compare Ghana to our neighbors. Asa, embrofofone de omuye juma na omuye saying Ghana, ye journalist nekra went on to compare it to our neighbors. Osha GDP per head in 2023 at purchasing power parity and all that. Talking about cheap money. What you say Ghana, say Busia yako boy, a sansa near funti, near bonny bebre, and there ababe and say talked about that and all that. I mean, it's a very good article. Cleaning house, and that is a new taxes. I want to buy e-levy, a DND tax, and the bet phone in the tax at almost no talked about all of that. This is a good article. It's here for. Won't try my comment box anymore. That's it.